Most people believe the challenge today is information. There's too much of it. It moves too fast. It never stops. So the natural response is to try to keep up. Read more, learn more, absorb more. But even after doing all of that, many people still feel overwhelmed. Not because they haven't seen enough, but because seeing more doesn't automatically create understanding. The problem is not volume. It's what the mind is being asked to do with that volume. Here's the assumption most people operate under. If I can understand each piece of information, I'll understand the whole. That assumption worked when systems were small, when information was limited, when change was incremental, when contexts repeated. In those environments, you could move piece by piece and eventually assemble a complete picture. But modern systems don't behave that way. They scale faster than linear understanding. They change before completion. And by the time you've understood one part, the context around it has already shifted. This is where the old model breaks. Trying to understand everything individually becomes exhausting and ineffective, because the mind was never designed to hold infinite details. It was designed to recognize patterns. Pattern recognition is how the human mind compresses reality. Instead of storing every detail, the mind looks for structure. Instead of memorizing every example, it notices what repeats. Instead of tracking every change, it identifies what stays consistent beneath the surface. This is not a new skill. It's one of the oldest human abilities. Long before formal education, people navigated complex environments by recognizing patterns. Weather, seasons, social dynamics, cause and effect. They didn't need full information, they needed orientation. And orientation comes from patterns, not data. What's changed is not how the mind works. What's changed is the scale of the environment. Modern systems present more information than pattern recognition can easily extract unless the mind knows what it's looking for. This is why many people feel mentally saturated but not clear. They are consuming information in a way that bypasses pattern formation. They stay at the surface. They move from one item to the next without letting structure emerge. And without structure, everything feels heavy. Pattern recognition lightens the load. When the mind recognizes a pattern, it stops needing to track every detail. It understands the shape of the situation. It knows what matters and what doesn't. It can ignore noise without fear. This is the new literacy. Not the ability to read more, but the ability to see what repeats, to notice relationships, to recognize how systems behave over time. This kind of literacy doesn't require constant updating. It doesn't panic when new information arrives, because new information is evaluated against a structure that already exists. This is where confidence comes from. Not from knowing everything, but from knowing how to orient when you don't. This is also why pattern recognition scales so well. Once you recognize a pattern, you can apply it in new contexts. Different domain, different details, same underlying structure. That's transfer. And transfer is what allows humans to move forward in fast-changing environments. Memorization locks you into a specific context. Pattern recognition frees you from it. This doesn't mean patterns are vague or sloppy. True pattern recognition is grounded. It's built from exposure, reflection, and comparison over time. It's not guessing. It's not intuition without foundation. It's the ability to see coherence beneath complexity. And once you have that ability, the environment becomes less intimidating because you no longer feel obligated to process everything. You're looking for signals, not noise, for structure, not volume, for meaning, not motion. This shift changes how learning feels. Instead of feeling like accumulation, learning feels like clarification. You don't feel heavier as you learn, you feel lighter. Because understanding is consolidating, not expanding endlessly. This is why people who recognize patterns often appear calm in chaotic systems. They are not calmer because they care less. They are calmer because they see more clearly. They know what to attend to. They know what can be ignored, and they know that clarity does not require completeness. It requires perspective. This is also where many people underestimate themselves. They assume pattern recognition is a rare or advanced skill. It isn't. Everyone uses it naturally in familiar domains: sports, relationships, work dynamics, daily routines. The challenge is learning to trust that ability in new or abstract environments, especially environments that present themselves as technical or overwhelming. But the principle is the same. Patterns still exist. They are just less obvious at first. And the more you look for them, the more visible they become. This is why chasing information often backfires. When you're focused on keeping up, you don't leave space for patterns to emerge. You're too busy tracking details, too busy reacting, too busy moving. Pattern recognition requires a slightly different posture. Not passive, but observant. Not rushed, but attentive. It's the posture of someone trying to understand how something behaves, not just what it says. And this posture is becoming increasingly valuable, because fast systems reward those who can orient quickly, not those who know the most facts. Orientation allows better decisions, better questions, better judgment. This is the quiet advantage humans bring into complex, intelligent environments. Not raw processing speed, but the ability to see structure where others see chaos. And once that clicks, something important shifts internally. You stop feeling like you're drowning in information. You stop feeling pressure to absorb everything. You stop measuring your intelligence by how much you remember. Instead, you start trusting your ability to recognize what matters. That trust is stabilizing. It allows you to move forward without panic, to engage with new ideas without fear, to adapt without losing your footing. This is why pattern recognition is becoming the new literacy. Not because information is unimportant, but because information alone is no longer sufficient. Understanding now requires seeing how things connect, how they repeat, how they evolve. And those who can do that don't need to rush. They don't need to memorize everything. They don't need to master every new system immediately. They need to see clearly enough to orient themselves. From there, everything else becomes manageable. So here is the landing thought for episode 5. You don't need to understand everything to move forward. You need to recognize the patterns that shape what you're seeing. When you do that, complexity compresses, confusion fades, and clarity becomes something you carry with you, not something you chase.